Over the years, I've worked with a variety of forest tillage implements and tools and ideas. Quite a bit of work with rippers on dozers, which is just a shank. I've looked at sophisticated subsoilers for dozers as well. And the original ideas behind this RipPlow came from work about 20 years ago, from actually looking at a reforestation tool that we could plow soils really deep in a true turn the subsoil over into big clods, and then we went the route of spreading topsoil with an excavator track hoe. Very expensive track hoe operation, and only worked on linear disturbances. So the question is, how do we achieve that process of creating an environment where the freeze-thaw process really worked, from the deep plowing with the reforestation plow to larger landscape like well sites and larger disturbances. So the whole objective of a rip plow was to work the soil, create a lot of strain, which is lift in the soil itself, from the bottom upward, so that we could leave topsoil in place, because the subsoil is often fairly wet. And to till the subsoil and spread topsoil is to negate the benefit of tilling the subsoil first. And the soils aren't dry enough to till like we would oftentimes in ag lands in multiple layers. So we had to do a tillage practice that worked from the bottom up. And the question is, well, why can't rippers do that? Well, rippers are long, narrow shank. And there's a critical depth that they've worked out through agriculture, which rippers actually break the soil outward from the shank. And that depth depends on how moist the soil is. And if the soil is really moist, we oftentimes only make a slit for full length. So the drier the soil is, we get more of a V cracking from the shank going down at depth. But at some point we hit what they refer to as a critical depth, below which all we have is a vertical slit in the soil. And in that process, what's really happening is the soil is actually flowing around the shank as the shank is moving forward through the soil. And we have seen in some forest road ripping that if we lap our passes like we have here with the plow, we actually just move the first block over to allow that space for that shank to move through the soil. So we knew we had to do something different, because tillage actually only loosens a very small volume of the soil. If we think of the soil as having three dimensions, as a well site would, and we look at a cross section, a ripper is doing a very small amount and some compaction below the critical depth. So we have a rip plow in one pass that is about 60 centimeters wide at the base, and then it's breaking the soil from the base outward and upward. And then when we do the lapping pass that we have here and I'm standing in, we have more than double that, and the pressure from the bottom outward and upward is breaking the soil through the whole area. So if we make an error in getting that a good alignment, doesn't have to be perfect, but between the first pass, we will maximize the benefit of the second pass. Otherwise, we're paying for less value than we could potentially generate from doing the job well in controlling the steerage of the machine across these sites.